Harris, at this hour we are outside Mr. Giuliani's apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, very well-to-do neighborhood, normally a very quiet residential neighborhood. And as you can see, we're going to pan around here for a second. You can see that there are now more than half a dozen news crews that have assembled here. They are outside his apartment building. We are told that Mr. Giuliani is actually home right now, and that the federal authorities who executed this search warrant in this building behind me actually have now left the scene. According to multiple reports and a confirmation now that we've received from Mr. Giuliani's attorney, the federal authorities did search his home, and apparently they did take away several electronic devices. There are multiple reports that authorities were seeking to look at his phones. This search warrant came about, according to a number of reports, because authorities had been investigating two men who are associates of Mr. Giuliani that are now going to be on trial for connected criminal activity, alleged criminal activity, but that got the authorities looking at Mr. Giuliani's role in the Ukraine. Authorities want to know to what, if any extent, Mr. Giuliani may have been lobbying illegally on behalf of the Ukrainian government without notifying the Justice Department. That is a crime. They're also looking, we understand, to determine what, if any, role Mr. Giuliani had in the ouster of the U.S. ambassador in the Ukraine. The ambassador was someone who Mr. Giuliani thought was not serving the interests of Mr. Trump and the Trump administration, and ultimately the ambassador was ousted by Mr. Trump. And the two associates, I should very quickly add, Harris, that are going to be on trial for unrelated charges to why we're here today. We're looking at what role Hunter Biden and his father, now the president, may have had with an energy company in the Ukraine. Those two associates, Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, are going to be on trial sometime in the fall. So again, exactly what the authorities are looking for, still not entirely clear, but it is possible to connect the dots and see the direction of this ongoing investigation. Again, we understand Mr. Giuliani is at home in the building behind me. He has not, as of yet, stepped outside to address this latest activity. Harris, back to you.
So again, this is reporting from breaking news from the New York Times. Federal investigators in Manhattan executed search warrants early Wednesday at the home and office of Rudy Giuliani, the former New York City mayor who became President Donald J. Trump's personal lawyer, stepping up a criminal investigation into Mr. Giuliani's dealings in Ukraine, three people with knowledge of the investigation said. The investigators seized Mr. Giuliani's electronic devices and searched his Madison Avenue apartment and his Park Avenue office at about 6 a.m. This morning. So this is a major development. Yet another lawyer, personal attorney for former President Donald J. Trump, is under serious investigations. At any point you see that they move to have search warrants implemented, it is a sign that there is enough evidence to suggest to warrant the warrant. And again, with that last clip that we just listened to from Fox News, the height of irony is that they still try to throw in Hunter Biden and Joe Biden into this conversation because it revolves around Ukraine. And it's not possible for Fox News to report the news without somehow trying to draw a false equivalence between what's happening with conservatives and what's happening with liberals. But I digress. That's completely besides the point and was not necessary to be put in their reporting. Yet and still, we see this is how Fox News does news. Back to the major story that's breaking. I want to play a clip from Michael Schmidt, who is a part of the New York Times, and he gives more context as it pertains to this investigation and the warrants that have been executed at Rudy Giuliani's home.
So my colleagues reporting on this today, and a pretty significant development in the investigation. Executing a search warrant is one of the most aggressive steps that prosecutors can take. And it's particularly significant in this case because last year, as this investigation was working its way through, prosecutors wanted to execute a search warrant, but were stopped from doing that by the Trump Justice Department. Now, here we are, 8 days after Lisa Monaco has been confirmed as the Deputy Attorney General in the Biden Justice Department, this approval to execute the search warrant has been given. So it shows that that investigation that had began many, almost several years ago at this point, is accelerating, is gaining momentum here after it had been slowed at the end of last year.
And so we see the Department of Justice underneath Donald Trump absolutely was not going to investigate his attorney, Rudy Giuliani. But now that there's a new administration in place, there can be some accountability with regard to all of the dealings that took place in the Trump administration, particularly as it pertains to Rudy Giuliani and Ukraine. Last but not least, there is no presidential pardon for him on this. Donald Trump does not have the ability to protect Rudy Giuliani at this point. And so as with Michael Cohen, who was Donald Trump's previous attorney, personal attorney, found guilty and also spent time in jail, there's a possibility that Rudy Giuliani will face a similar fate because these people have put themselves and their lives on the line on behalf of Donald Trump, rather, as Donald Trump is now on vacation, permanent vacation at Mar-a-Lago. Rudy Giuliani is in New York facing possible indictments, depending on what information is found on those laptops that they took from his office and from his home. So we'll keep an eye on it, as will everyone else. This is breaking news today. Rudy Giuliani found himself on the receiving end of a search warrant, both at his home and his personal office in New York.